What if the comfort you're chasing is quietly stealing your strength? We spend our lives trying to make things easier, safer, smoother, predictable. But somewhere along the way we forget how to fight, how to stretch, how to soar. This is the story of a soul who traded struggle for safety, only to discover that an easy life can come at the highest price of all, the loss of your wings. This is a powerful and reflective story about Arin, a soul who trades struggle for comfort only to realize that an easy life can silently cage the spirit. Through loss, rediscovery, and courage, Arin learns that true freedom isn't found in avoiding pain, but in embracing growth. This story is a heartfelt journey from safety to self-discovery, reminding us that sometimes the hardest paths are the ones that teach us how to fly. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound in Arin's apartment. Outside, the city pulsed with life, car horns, laughter, music spilling from cafes. But inside, everything was muted, perfectly temperature-controlled, perfectly still. The coffee machine gurgled quietly. The same morning routine, the same playlist, the same neatly ironed shirt hanging from the same hook by the same door. Everything in Arin's life worked like clockwork, predictable, safe, easy. People said Arin was lucky. They had a stable job, a comfortable apartment, and a small circle of friends who never asked difficult questions. Their bills were always paid, their meals always planned, their evenings always spent scrolling through the soft glow of a phone screen. But every night, as Arin lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, something unnameable stirred, a quiet ache, like the faint hum of a song half remembered. Years ago, Arin had dreamed of being a pilot, not metaphorically, but literally. As a child, they would sit on the balcony for hours, watching planes slice across the blue, drawing invisible lines between clouds. One day they would whisper, "I'll be up there too." They used to sketch wings, engines, and skies in notebooks. The smell of jet fuel once meant hope. But somewhere between graduation and adulthood, the dream dimmed. It wasn't a dramatic fall, no tragedy, no heartbreak, just a slow, quiet fading. Life offered easier paths, safer ones, the kind that didn't ask for courage, only compliance. When Arin took their first job at an insurance firm, the pay was decent, the hours reasonable, the workload manageable. Everyone said it was a good life, so they stayed. 1 month became 6, 6 became a year became almost a decade. The edges of their ambition began to dull. One evening, as Arin sat eating takeout in front of the television, a documentary came on, Wings of the Future, the life of modern aviators. The image of a small plane soaring through crimson clouds filled the screen. The pilot's laughter echoed through the speakers. Arin froze, chopsticks mid-air. Something inside their chest fluttered, a brief, almost painful spark of recognition. They turned the volume down. The feeling was too uncomfortable, too raw, like looking at a reflection that revealed what was lost. So they switched the channel. The hum of the air conditioner returned. The comfort came back, and with it, the silence. That night, Arin dreamt of flying, not in a cockpit, but with their own wings. They could feel the wind clawing through their hair, the rush of height, the thrill of weightlessness. But just as the horizon stretched open and freedom seemed within reach, something tugged at their back. They looked down. Chains, golden, beautiful, and heavy, were wrapped around their wings. The more they struggled, the tighter they grew. When Arin woke, their heart was racing. The dream clung to them like smoke. For a moment, they almost cried. But morning routines wait for no emotions. The alarm buzzed, the coffee brewed. The clock ticked. Life went on, easy, predictable, comfortable. On the way to work, Arin passed by a playground where a small group of children were running, their laughter cutting through the morning haze. One of them wore a cardboard pair of wings taped together with bright blue tape. He was running, arms outstretched, shouting, "I'm flying! Look, I'm flying!" Arin smiled, but it was a hollow smile, the kind that doesn't quite reach the eyes. For a second, they imagined stopping, telling the boy, "Don't ever forget that feeling." But the crosswalk light turned green. The moment passed. At the office, the day unfolded like all the others. Emails, polite meetings, the faint scent of burnt coffee, the rhythm of keyboards clicking in unison. Midday, a co-worker named Jenna leaned over and said, "You ever think we're too comfortable here?" Arin looked up. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Jenna shrugged. "We make good money, have benefits, short Fridays. But doesn't it ever feel like we stopped living somewhere along the way?" Arin hesitated. "I guess comfort isn't such a bad thing." "No," Jenna said, turning back to her screen. "It's not bad. It's just expensive." "Expensive?" She smiled faintly. "Yeah, it costs us our spark." The words lingered long after she walked away. That evening, as Arin walked home under the amber glow of streetlights, they looked up at the sky again. Planes crossed above, their lights blinking against the darkness. For the first time in years, Arin didn't just see them, they felt them. The boy with the cardboard wings, the dream of flight, the golden chains. Was this what Jenna meant by expensive? The price of comfort wasn't money. It was something deeper, something harder to name. Maybe it was passion. Maybe it was purpose. Maybe it was the wings themselves. When Arin reached home, they found their old sketchbook buried in a drawer. Dust rose as they flipped it open. There, in faint pencil lines, was a drawing of a bird mid-flight, half real, half imagined. Underneath it, written in younger handwriting, were the words, "Don't let the easy path steal your wings." Arin closed the book slowly. Outside, the wind stirred, faint but real, brushing against the window like a whisper. They didn't know it yet, but something had begun to shift. The cage had cracked, just a little, and somewhere deep inside, the wings stirred. The next few mornings felt heavier than usual. Arin couldn't shake the feeling that something invisible was following them, not a presence, but a pull. It was as if every moment of quiet now echoed with the question they didn't want to answer. When did you stop flying? The office looked the same as always. Identical gray desks, muted chatter, the soft whir of printers. But something in Arin's perception had shifted. The fluorescent lights seemed harsher, the smiles more practiced. Even their own reflection in the dark screen before the computer looked unfamiliar. A stranger wearing competence, like a costume. They thought about the sketchbook they'd found the night before. The pages had smelled faintly of dust and nostalgia, and flipping through them had felt like traveling back to a world that once belonged entirely to possibility. A small ache lingered, the kind that makes you want to laugh and cry at the same time. That evening, Arin decided to take a detour home. Instead of their usual train, they walked along the old neighborhood route, the streets where they'd grown up. The path wound past the elementary school, now covered in ivy and memories. Through the chain-link fence, they could see the playground, the same swing set that once launched them toward the sky. Arin smiled faintly. How many times had they closed their eyes as a child and pretended to fly? To feel the rush of air, the dizziness of height, the freedom of pretending to be unbound. But the memory that surfaced next wasn't joyful. It was sharp, alive. It was their teacher, Ms. Lean. She'd been the first to notice Arin's fascination with planes. She used to bring aviation magazines to class, letting Arin pore over pages filled with blueprints and jet engines. One afternoon, she'd said, "Never lose that curiosity, Arin. It's what gives you wings." That sentence had been tucked away somewhere in the folds of time, until now. And for the first time in years, Arin wondered, what would she think if she saw me now? The next weekend, Arin went searching for something they hadn't touched in years. The old model airplane set that used to sit on their childhood desk. It was buried in a box in the storage closet, wedged between tax forms and holiday decorations. When they pulled it out, dust rose in a thin cloud. The wings were chipped, the paint faded. But the moment Arin held it, something deep inside stirred awake, like muscles long unused, remembering their purpose. They set it on the table, fingers tracing the edges. The tiny plane looked fragile, but it carried a kind of defiance. It represented a version of themselves that had believed in impossible things. That night, Arin didn't scroll through social media. They didn't turn on the TV. They just sat there, staring at that little plane, as if it held answers to questions they hadn't asked in years. Days passed, and with each one, the restlessness grew. Arin began noticing how the people around them had all constructed their own cages of comfort. The co-worker who hated her job but stayed for the paycheck. The neighbor who dreamed of painting but never found the right time. The friend who used to sing but now only hummed when no one was listening. Everywhere they looked, they saw wings that had forgotten how to fly. One night, while meeting friends for dinner, the conversation drifted to childhood dreams. "Remember when we thought we could be anything?" Someone laughed. "Yeah," another replied. "And thank God we grew up, right?" Laughter filled the table. But Arin didn't laugh. Something inside them recoiled at those words. Thank God we grew up. Was growing up supposed to mean giving up? They excused themselves early that night, the laughter of their friends echoing behind them like a language they no longer understood. The next morning, Arin arrived at work early. For once, they didn't open emails immediately. Instead, they opened a blank document and just stared at the cursor blinking on the screen. Then, almost without thinking, they began typing. Not a report, not an email, just words, memories, feelings, thoughts. They wrote about the boy with cardboard wings, about Ms. Lean and her belief, about the small airplane on their desk and the dream that had never quite died, only slept. It felt strange, liberating, to let the truth spill out. By the time they stopped, 2 hours had passed. The sun had fully risen, painting the office walls with gold. Arin read what they'd written, and for the first time in years, they didn't feel like a spectator in their own life. They felt awake. That afternoon, something unusual happened. A message popped up on Arin's work computer from an unfamiliar name. Liar. He was an older consultant the company occasionally brought in for training. His message was simple. "I saw you staring at the sky during lunch. You look like someone who used to fly." Arin blinked. How could he know that? Before they could respond, another message arrived. "If you ever want to talk about wings, coffee's on me." It was odd. Out of nowhere, a stranger reaching through the fog of routine. But something about his tone was calm, knowing. Arin hesitated for a full minute before replying, "Sure. Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," came the quick reply. "There's a cafe near the park. 7:30. They almost canceled that evening, second-guessing the entire thing. But curiosity, that long dormant spark, had begun to whisper again. And for once, Arin decided to listen. As night fell, they stood by the window, watching another airplane cross the sky. A glowing trail against the darkness. For years, that sight had only reminded them of what they weren't. But tonight it felt different. It wasn't envy. It wasn't regret. It was longing, a kind that could still become motion. They whispered into the glass, almost to themselves. Maybe it's not too late to remember. That night, Arin dreamed again. But this time, when they looked at their wings, the golden chains had begun to crack. And through the fractures, light was breaking through. The cafe was small and tucked behind a row of flowering trees. When Arin arrived the next morning, the smell of roasted beans mingled with rain from the night before. Liar was already there, an older man with silver hair and the kind of calm that comes from living through storms. He smiled as Arin approached. "You came," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I almost didn't. Most people don't. Comfort is persuasive." They ordered coffee. For a while, they talked about nothing, the weather, traffic, a local festival. But then Liar leaned forward. "Tell me," he said softly, "when did you stop chasing the sky?" Arin froze. "What makes you think I ever did?" He chuckled. "Because I've seen that look before. The look of someone who's built a life so safe that it's begun to feel like a cage." Arin wanted to deny it, but words failed. Liar sipped his coffee, eyes distant. "I used to fly small planes for a living. Loved every second of it. But after my first scare engine failure over a field, I quit. Told myself I'd had enough excitement. Started working at a desk instead. It was easy money, quiet days. But after a few years, I realized something." "What?" "I hadn't avoided fear," he said. "I'd avoided life." The words landed like a quiet explosion. That day, the office felt unbearable. Every routine, every polite smile, and predictable email echoed with Liar's voice. Comfort is persuasive. Arin started noticing how everyone moved like parts of a machine. The same jokes recycled at lunch. The same sighs on Monday mornings. The same hollow cheer on Fridays. At first glance, they all looked fine, well-dressed, well-fed, well-paid. But beneath that polish was a tiredness Arin recognized too well. The weariness of people who had traded purpose for predictability. By late afternoon, Arin found themselves staring at the ceiling, unable to focus. The numbers on the spreadsheet blurred. What once felt easy now felt suffocating. Was this the price Lair had warned about? That weekend, Arin visited their parents. The house was exactly as they remembered, tidy, quiet, filled with the smell of lavender and nostalgia. Their mother smiled when she saw them. "You look tired," she said. "Work keeping you busy?" "Just the usual," Arin replied automatically. At dinner, their father spoke proudly about stability. "You've built a good life, Arin. You're sensible. Not like your cousin chasing art gigs and moving cities every 6 months." Arin smiled, but something in their chest twisted. They used to admire that cousin's courage to leave, to start over, to risk. Now, hearing their father's praise, Arin realized how much of their life had been shaped by the need to please. After dinner, they wandered out to the backyard. The night air was cool. Crickets sang softly. Above them, the stars scattered like forgotten possibilities. Arin whispered, "Easy isn't always right, is it?" The wind offered no answer, only a quiet rustle through the trees. Monday came too soon. Back at the office, Arin opened their email to find a memo. Mandatory wellness and motivation workshop this Friday. The irony stung. At the workshop, a cheerful consultant with 2 bright eyes talked about finding fulfillment within structure. He handed out worksheets titled "The Joy of Routine." "True happiness," he said, "comes from minimizing surprises." Liar's voice echoed in Arin's mind. "Comfort is persuasive." Arin looked around the room. Most people nodded, taking notes dutifully. They wanted to believe him. It was easier to believe him. When the session ended, Arin slipped out before anyone noticed. They walked to the rooftop, where the city stretched beneath them in restless motion. Planes blinked faintly above the skyline. For a long time, Arin just stood there, feeling the wind whip through their hair. The world below seemed obsessed with safety, but up here, the air itself demanded honesty. They whispered, "I want to feel alive again." That night, Arin wrote in their journal a habit they hadn't touched since college. "I used to think the opposite of fear was peace, but maybe the opposite of fear is freedom. And peace. Peace comes after you earn it." When they closed the journal, they felt a small flicker of warmth. Over the next week, tiny rebellions began to bloom. They started taking different routes to work. Sometimes they walked instead of riding the train. They deleted the company chat app from their phone. They stopped forcing smiles during meaningless small talk. Each act felt insignificant on its own, but together they were cracks spreading through the walls of a very old cage. Still, comfort whispered temptations. "Stay here. You're safe. The unknown is dangerous." Some nights Arin almost listened. They'd curl up on the couch, watching others' adventures on screen, convincing themselves that observation was enough. But then they'd remember Liar's calm eyes, the sound of planes in the sky, and that lingering question, when did you stop chasing it? By the end of the month, Arin realized something startling. The easy life wasn't really easy at all. It demanded sacrifices, dreams, curiosity, spontaneity, each surrendered quietly. One routine at a time. It didn't break you suddenly. It erased you slowly. Arin closed their eyes and imagined those golden chains again, glimmering in the dark. They could almost hear the metal creak, the faint promise that maybe, just maybe, it could still be broken. That evening, they sent Liar a message. "Coffee again tomorrow?" "Always," he replied. "I think I'm ready to talk about flying." The cafe felt different that morning. Warmer, brighter, alive with the quiet hum of conversation and the hiss of steaming milk. Arin arrived early, nervous energy thrumming beneath their calm exterior. Liar waved from his usual corner table, a faint smile playing across his lips. "You brought your journal," he said, noticing it in Arin's hand. Arin nodded. "I've been thinking about everything." Liar leaned back, folding his hands. "Good. Thinking is where it starts, but it's remembering that changes things." Arin frowned. "Remembering what?" He smiled gently. "Who you were before the world convinced you to be someone else." They sat in silence for a moment as the cafe door opened and closed, the sound of rain tapping against the window pane. Then Liar spoke again, his voice soft but steady. "I told you I used to fly, but I didn't tell you how I stopped." Arin leaned in, drawn by the quiet gravity in his tone. "It was supposed to be a routine flight," Liar began. "Clear weather, short distance. But midder, I hit a turbulence pocket, violent, unexpected. I panicked. For a few minutes, I lost control. The plane dropped hundreds of feet before I leveled it. I landed safely, but something broke inside me that day. I told myself I'd been lucky that I'd learned my lesson." He paused, tracing the rim of his coffee cup. "But what I really learned was fear. I stopped flying. Stopped taking chances. I told everyone I'd found peace. But deep down, I'd just made a home out of my cage." Arin's throat tightened. "So what changed?" Liar smiled faintly. "A stranger." He looked out the window as if replaying the memory. "Years later, I was working in an office much like yours. Gray walls, quiet desks, polite smiles. One afternoon, I met a delivery driver who came by regularly. He was maybe 20, always cheerful. One day, he asked why I looked so sad. I laughed it off, told him I was fine, but he didn't buy it." "What did he say?" Arin asked. "He said, 'You look like a man who forgot how to breathe.' Then he told me he was saving up to become a pilot." Liar chuckled softly. "He reminded me of myself before fear, before safety became my religion. And I realized something. I'd been waiting for courage to come back to me. But courage doesn't return. You have to chase it." Arin stared at him, the words sinking deep. "So you went back to flying?" Liar nodded. "Not right away. But that night I drove to an airfield just to watch the planes take off. The sound terrified me and thrilled me. I knew that if I didn't face it, I'd spend the rest of my life pretending to be content." He smiled wistfully. "It took months of training, small flights, panic attacks, but eventually I flew again. The day I did, I cried midder. It wasn't about conquering fear, it was about reclaiming myself." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of his story lingered like incense in the air. Liar leaned forward, eyes steady. "You know, Arin, most people think freedom is about escaping pain. It's not. It's about choosing what pain is worth living for." Arin's chest tightened. "I don't even know where to start." "Start with what scares you most," Liar said gently. "That's where your wings are waiting." Later that day, Arin walked home in the rain. The city pulsed around them. Umbrellas colliding, horns blaring, puddles reflecting neon lights. For the first time, Arin really saw it all. The motion, the noise, the life beyond the screen and the spreadsheet. When they reached their apartment, they stood at the window, watching streaks of water race down the glass. "Choosing what pain is worth living for," they murmured, repeating Liar's words. It echoed in their chest like a heartbeat. Arin picked up the journal again and began to write. Maybe the fear of falling is the price we pay for remembering how to fly. Days turned into weeks. Arin kept meeting Liar, each conversation peeling away another layer of old excuses. They talked about risks, how most people avoid them not because they can't handle failure, but because they can't handle uncertainty. "Uncertainty," Liar said once, "is the birthplace of everything new. You can't grow wings without first losing the ground beneath you." Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. Arin's manager offered them a promotion. More money, more comfort, more control. "You've earned this," he said warmly. "You'll be set for life." But Arin didn't feel pride. They felt dread. The golden chains glittered again, shinier than ever. That night, they sat in the dark, the offer letter glowing on their laptop screen. They imagined saying yes, the applause, the congratulations, the illusion of success. And then they imagined saying no, the uncertainty, the disapproval, the open sky. Their heart raced. Fear whispered, "Stay, it's safe here." But something deeper, quieter, whispered back, "You're meant for more." Arin closed the laptop. Their decision wasn't clear yet, but the question that mattered most had already changed. Not what's easiest, but what will make me feel alive again. The next morning, Arin texted Lyre, "Can we meet tonight?" "I need to talk," Lyre replied almost instantly. "The cafe, usual time." "Bring your wings." The cafe felt heavier that evening, as though it knew the weight of the choice Arin carried in. Rain had cleared, but the streets still shimmered from earlier storms, catching the glow of streetlights like liquid gold. Lyre sat by the window as always, but this time he didn't smile when Arin arrived. He simply studied their face as if he already understood. "You've made a decision," he said quietly. Arin nodded, though their hands trembled slightly around the coffee cup. "They offered me a promotion." Lyre leaned back, expression unreadable. "And? It's everything I thought I wanted," Arin said. "A higher title, more pay, more security. Everyone at work congratulated me before I even said yes." "But," Lyre prompted. Arin exhaled sharply. "But I feel sick. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, except instead of jumping, I'm being asked to dig the ground deeper so I can never climb out again." Lyre chuckled softly. "Ah, the gilded cage gets bigger, but it's still a cage." Arin nodded. "Exactly." They sat in silence for a while, the hum of conversation fading into the background. Arin stared at the rain-streaked window, thinking of all the years spent chasing stability. Every step had been logical, responsible, applauded. Yet, somewhere along the way, their life had grown smaller, not larger. Finally, Lyre spoke. "You know, people think flight is about the sky, but it's really about gravity." Arin frowned. "Gravity?" He nodded. "You can't learn to fly unless you first accept the pull trying to keep you grounded. Most people think falling is failure, but it's the only way wings remember what they're for." That night, Arin couldn't sleep. They lay awake, staring at the ceiling as the city hummed beyond the walls. In the quiet, the familiar voices of doubt returned, the ones that had guided every sensible choice so far. "Don't be reckless. Think about your future. You've worked too hard to start over." But another voice whispered, beneath it all, softer, older, like a forgotten melody. "You weren't born to be safe. You were born to soar." The two voices battled long into the night. The next morning, Arin called in sick. They needed space, air, distance from the polished chaos of the office. They drove without destination, following a road that curved into the countryside. Buildings gave way to open fields, the sky widening above like a held breath. Hours later, they found themselves parked beside a hill overlooking a small lake. The air smelled of earth and rain. It was the kind of quiet that made you remember things, small things, buried things. Arin climbed the hill slowly, memories surfacing with each step. The art projects they'd loved as a child. The poetry notebook from university. The time they'd once dreamed of traveling, of telling stories, of living differently. When they reached the top, they sat down and pulled out the journal. For a long time, the page remained blank. Then the words began to spill out. "Every comfort I built has cost me something invisible. I called it safety. It was actually fear. I thought I was protecting my peace, but I was just silencing my heart." Arin stared at the words, then underlined the last sentence twice. They stayed there until sunset, the lake glowing amber in the fading light. Something inside them loosened. Not a decision, not yet, but a quiet permission to want more. When their phone buzzed, it was Lyre. "The sky looks good tonight. Still afraid of falling?" Arin smiled through sudden tears and typed back, "Maybe falling isn't the worst thing." The next day, Arin walked into the office with a strange calm. Everything looked the same. The sterile lights, the endless chatter about deadlines and weekend plans, but it all felt different now, as if they were seeing it through glass. Their manager spotted them immediately. "Arin, perfect timing. HR just needs your signature on the promotion paperwork." Arin froze, heart thudding. Around them, voices buzzed with expectation. The easy answer waited on the tip of their tongue. Of course. Thank you. I'm honored. But then they saw the reflection in the glass wall, a tired face, eyes dulled by years of obedience. They saw the cage again, now perfectly polished. I can't, they said suddenly. The room went quiet. What do you mean? The manager asked, blinking in disbelief. Arin swallowed hard. I appreciate the offer, truly. But this isn't the life I want anymore. A ripple of confusion passed through the room. You're throwing away stability, someone muttered. Arin smiled faintly. Maybe, but I think I'm buying something better. They turned, leaving the office one last time. No applause this time, just silence. But it was the sweetest silence Arin had ever known. Outside, the sky stretched wide and blue. The wind rushed past, wild and unfiltered. For the first time in years, Arin didn't have a plan, and that uncertainty didn't terrify them. It thrilled them. They took a deep breath and whispered, maybe the wings haven't forgotten after all. That evening they met Lyre again at the cafe. He looked up from his book, eyes shining with quiet pride. You did it. I did, Arin said, smiling. I don't know what comes next, but it feels like breathing again. Lyre raised his cup. To the fall that taught you to fly. They clinked their mugs together. Outside, the sky burned orange and gold, and for the first time in a long while, Arin didn't feel like an observer of life. They felt like part of it. The easy life had been comfortable, predictable, safe, but this uncertainty, this wild freedom felt real. And maybe Arin thought, that's the true price of an easy life, the part of your soul that forgets how to rise. Freedom, Arin soon learned, didn't come wrapped in sunshine. It came in long mornings of uncertainty and quiet nights of fear. The first week after quitting, the excitement felt electric. Arin woke early, walked the city streets with a spring in their step, and imagined endless possibilities. But by the second week, the thrill began to fade. There were no paychecks arriving, no structured hours to fill the day. Friends at work stopped texting as much. Their parents called twice, both times hinting gently, you can still go back. Arin smiled and said, I'm fine. But at night, the silence grew heavier. They missed the noise, the reassuring hum of busyness that once drowned out doubt. Without it, every question echoed louder. What now? What if I fail? What if this was a mistake? One afternoon, desperate for distraction, Arin wandered through a small art gallery tucked between two shops. The space was nearly empty, just the faint scent of paint and the sound of soft music playing in the background. As they drifted between canvases, one painting stopped them cold. It showed a small bird perched on a broken branch, wings half open, caught between fear and flight. The background was vast, a blur of sky and storm. Beneath it, a handwritten title read, The Moment Before Courage. Arin felt something stir inside. It was them, that bird, caught between the familiar and the unknown, terrified, but trembling on the edge of becoming. A woman beside them spoke quietly. That one's my favorite, she said. It's about the beauty of uncertainty. Arin turned. She was in her 50s, wearing a paint-stained apron and a kind smile. You painted this? The woman nodded. I used to work in finance. Left everything to paint again. Arin blinked. Wasn't that hard? Oh, terribly, she chuckled. But you know what's worse than the pain of starting over? What? The pain of never starting at all. That night, Arin couldn't stop thinking about her words. They opened their journal again. Maybe the world doesn't punish us for falling. Maybe it punishes us for refusing to leap. The next morning, Arin decided to do anything that felt alive. They found a local community center offering writing workshops and signed up on impulse. The first class terrified them. Sitting in a circle of strangers, Arin's palms sweated as introductions went around. Most were artists, teachers, or dreamers chasing something intangible. When it was Arin's turn, they hesitated. I used to work in corporate management, they said finally. Now I'm learning to remember who I am. A few people smiled knowingly. The instructor, a gentle woman with bright eyes, nodded. Then you're in the right place. Writing became Arin's anchor. The act of putting words on paper gave structure to the chaos in their mind. They wrote about the office, the golden cage, the fear of disappointing others, the exhilaration of leaving. Each page felt like shedding another layer of the person they no longer were. But growth, Arin realized, wasn't linear. Some days doubt returned like an old ghost. Bills piled up and uncertainty pressed close. There were moments of panic nights, staring at the ceiling, wondering if freedom was worth this anxiety. One evening, they met Lair again at the cafe. He listened quietly as Arin poured it all out, the fear, the restlessness, the exhaustion. Finally, he said, "Do you know what most people don't understand about flight?" Arin looked up. "What?" He smiled. "Wings aren't built for comfort. They're built for resistance. Without the wind pushing against you, you'd never rise." The words hit Arin like truth wrapped in thunder. Every obstacle, every lonely night, every doubt, it wasn't failure, it was wind. Necessary resistance? Weeks turned into months. Slowly, Arin began to find rhythm in uncertainty. They took on small freelance projects, wrote articles about meaning and courage, even volunteered to mentor a few young writers at the workshop. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was real. The days began to feel fuller, not with tasks, but with purpose. One afternoon, while helping a young writer edit her essay, the girl said something that stopped Arin mid-sentence. "You always talk about courage like it's a choice," she said. "But what if it's a habit?" Arin smiled. "Maybe it is. A habit of not listening to fear's first voice." By late spring, Arin had saved enough to plan something they'd always dreamed of, a solo trip to the mountains. The idea scared them, but that was the point. They'd packed light, just a notebook, a camera, and a borrowed tent. On the third morning, they reached a ridge overlooking a valley so vast it seemed endless. The sky was a blue so pure it almost hurt to look at. Standing there, wind whipping through their hair, Arin felt something break open inside. Not fear, not sadness, but awe. This was what had been missing all along. The quiet hum of aliveness that only comes when you stop protecting yourself from life. They laughed, tears streaming down their face. The sound carried, echoing into the valley like a promise. The world didn't owe them safety, but it offered them possibility. And maybe that was better. When Arin returned to the city weeks later, their old colleagues were shocked by the change. They still didn't have a corporate title or a fixed path, but there was light in their eyes again, and a steadiness in their voice. Someone from HR asked half-jokingly, "Do you ever regret leaving?" Arin smiled. "Only when I forget to look up." That evening, as the sun dipped low, they visited Lair one last time. He was sitting outside the cafe, eyes on the sky. "You found it, didn't you?" he asked. "Found what?" "The sky that waited," he said. "It never leaves. We just forget to look for it." Arin smiled softly. "You were right about falling." Lair raised an eyebrow. "Oh? It's not failure," Arin said. "It's flight in disguise," Lair chuckled. "Then I suppose you finally remembered how to fly." Arin looked toward the horizon, where the last light shimmered across the clouds. The fear was still there, but now it walked beside freedom, not in its place. And as the wind rose, whispering through the city's quiet hum, Arin whispered back, "Thank you for waiting." Freedom wasn't light. Arin had imagined it as wings, weightless, effortless, endless. But the truth was, even wings had mass. The months after returning from the mountains were both luminous and heavy. The glow of discovery still burned inside, but life has always demanded balance. Rent still needed paying. Food still needed buying. The exhilaration of leaving had been replaced by the quiet challenge of building. For the first time in their life, Arin had to depend on their own rhythm. Not a clock, not a boss, not a schedule. It was both thrilling and terrifying. Some mornings they woke with purpose, diving into writing projects or mentoring young creatives. Other days they stared at the ceiling, haunted by questions they thought they'd already answered. What if this freedom doesn't last? What if I was better off before? The mind, Arin realized, could build cages out of anything, even liberty. One gray morning, the power went out. Arin sat by the window, watching raindrops trickle down the glass. Outside, people hurried beneath umbrellas, moving through their routines like clockwork. For a moment, a pang of envy hit them. How easy it must be, they thought, to wake up with certainty, to know exactly where to go. Then came the next thought, softer, wiser. But at what cost? They opened their journal, flipping through pages filled with notes, sketches, and fragments of their journey. One line caught their eye. Wings aren't built for comfort. They're built for resistance. Liar's words echoed like an old compass. Arin smiled faintly and wrote beneath it, "Maybe the weight of freedom is proof that I'm still flying." By early summer, Arin's small blog where they shared reflections about courage, comfort, and self-discovery began to gain readers. Messages trickled in from strangers across the world. Teachers, students, office workers, artists. One read, "Your story helped me quit a job I hated. I finally feel alive again." Another said, "Thank you for reminding me it's okay to begin at 40. Arin read each message carefully, heart swelling. They realized something profound. When you choose to live authentically, your courage gives others permission to do the same. But success, even small success, brought temptation. Offers started coming, sponsorships, interviews, partnerships. The kind that promised stability, but at the cost of creativity. "You could make real money from this," one sponsor said. "All we need is a bit more content polish. Maybe tone down the parts about fear and failure they don't sell as well." Arin hesitated. It sounded familiar, the old song of comfort, wearing new clothes. That night, they called Layer. "They want to make it bigger," Arin said. "More profitable. But it feels like I'd be building the same cage, just painted differently." Layer laughed softly. "Freedom will always test your loyalty to it. The question isn't whether the offer is good, it's whether it's true to who you are." Arin sighed. "But what if saying no means losing everything I've built? Then maybe what you've built wasn't meant to last," he said gently. "The only thing that endures is what's born from honesty." Days passed before Arin decided. They turned down the offers. The inbox quieted, the messages slowed. For a brief moment they felt foolish. But beneath that, there was peace, the kind that came from alignment, not applause. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Arin sat on the rooftop of their building. The city hummed below, alive with its endless rhythm. The air was warm, carrying scents of rain and asphalt. For the first time in a long while, Arin wasn't chasing or escaping anything. They were simply being. A flock of birds crossed the sky in unison, rising and falling in patterns too intricate to plan. Arin watched, mesmerized. They remembered how terrified they'd once been of falling, and how now, even the wind's weight felt like an ally. Weeks later, they met Layer again. He looked more tired this time, but his eyes still glimmered with quiet wisdom. "You've changed," he said, smiling. "You carry yourself differently." "I think I'm finally learning how to stay in the air," Arin said. Layer nodded. "Most people think the hardest part of flying is taking off. It's not. It's staying aloft, balancing between effort and surrender." They sat in companionable silence for a while, listening to the world move around them. Then Arin asked, "Do you ever regret not chasing the sky sooner?" Layer looked at them thoughtfully. "No. Regret is just another form of holding on. The sky doesn't care when you arrive. It only waits." Arin smiled, feeling a familiar warmth spread through their chest. "Then I guess it's still waiting for me to keep going." That night, Arin returned home and found a message waiting from one of their writing students. "You once said fear is a compass. I think I finally understand. I'm applying for an artist residency abroad." "Thank you." Arin stared at the screen for a long time, a smile slowly forming. Every word they'd written, every struggle, every lonely night, it all mattered. The wings they'd fought to remember were now lifting others too. Maybe that was the point of it all, not just to fly, but to remind others that they could. Later, lying in bed, Arin thought about the word freedom. It wasn't the absence of responsibility. It was the courage to choose it. Every single day. The sky, after all, was never promised. but the choice to rise toward it that belonged to them now. As they drifted toward sleep, a quiet peace settled over them, the kind that didn't come from control, but from trust, the kind that whispered, "You've earned your wings." The storm came quietly at first, as most storms do. A flicker in the routine, a tremor in the calm. It began with a call. Arin was halfway through editing an article when their phone buzzed, flashing an unfamiliar number. They hesitated before answering. On the other end was a voice they hadn't heard in years, fragile, hesitant, trembling. "Arin, it's Mom." Their heart stilled. It had been nearly 5 years since they last spoke. The silence between them had grown into something tangible, like an invisible wall neither dared to climb. "I know it's been a while," her voice quivered, "but your father, he's sick. The doctors say it's serious." 1,000 unsaid words flooded Arin's chest. All those nights of resentment, all those arguments that ended in slammed doors and silence, they felt small now, almost absurd. "I'll come," Arin said softly. The train ride back to their hometown felt surreal. The same fields, the same dull gray stations, the same skies. Everything looked familiar, yet Arin felt like a stranger passing through their own past. When they reached the small-town hospital, their mother was waiting outside, looking smaller than Arin remembered. Her face, once sharp with authority, now carried the soft weariness of time and guilt. She smiled faintly. "You came," Arin nodded. "Of course." They didn't hug right away. Sometimes words have to break before arms can close the distance. Inside, their father lay on the bed, frail and pale. Tubes and quiet machines surrounded him like ghostly witnesses. The man who once seemed unshakable, the man who taught Arin to always choose safety over risk, was now barely a whisper of his former self. He opened his eyes slowly, and for a moment, Arin saw the faintest spark of recognition. "Arin," he rasped. "You're here." "I'm here," they whispered, their throat tightening. There were so many things they wanted to say, about leaving, about becoming someone their parents might not fully understand, about finding freedom. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Only presence mattered. Over the next few weeks, Arin stayed. They cooked for their mother, read to their father, and took long walks through the town that once felt too small for their dreams. And though old tensions occasionally surfaced, unspoken judgments, half-healed wounds, something subtle was shifting. One evening, as they sat by their father's bedside, he said quietly, "I used to think I was protecting you by asking you to play it safe." Arin looked up, surprised. "I was scared," he continued. "I didn't want you to fail like I did when I tried to start my own business. So I told you to stay grounded. I thought I was doing you a favor." There was a long silence. The hum of the heart monitor filled the space between them. "I know," Arin said finally. "I was angry for a long time. I thought you didn't believe in me. I didn't believe in myself," he said, tears welling. "And I made that your burden." Arin reached out and took his hand. It was weak but warm, real, alive. For the first time, forgiveness didn't feel like surrender. It felt like release. But storms don't pass without damage. A month later, their father was gone. The funeral was small, quiet. Neighbors brought food and flowers. Friends spoke in hushed voices. Arin stood beside their mother, feeling both empty and full. Grief and gratitude braided together. That night, as rain fell gently outside, their mother finally spoke the words Arin had waited years to hear. "You were right to leave," she said softly. "I see that now. You found something we never had the courage to chase." Arin looked at her, this woman who once embodied every expectation they'd tried to escape, and saw not judgment, but pride. "Maybe," Arin said gently, "we both learned to fly in our own way." Her smile was tired but real. "Maybe we did." After the funeral, Arin returned to the city, but something inside them had changed. The storm hadn't destroyed their wings, it had strengthened them. Freedom, they realized, wasn't just about escape. It was about facing what hurt, staying when it mattered, and learning that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. One evening, Arin wrote in their journal, "The wings that forgot to fly remembered again, not through wind or sky, but through forgiveness. They closed the journal and looked out the window. The sunset burned orange and gold, bleeding into the horizon. The same sky they had once feared, once chased, now simply existed, vast, patient, waiting. Weeks later, Arin shared a new piece on their blog titled, "The Price of an Easy Life." It wasn't about success or independence this time. It was about the cost of avoiding pain and the beauty of embracing it. The post went viral. Readers flooded the comments with stories of reconciliation, courage, and rediscovery. Arin didn't write for the numbers anymore, but that night, as messages poured in, they felt something powerful: connection. The kind that bridges hearts across miles, across stories. They whispered into the quiet of their apartment, "Maybe the storms aren't here to break us. Maybe they're here to remind us we can still fly." And somewhere, far above the city lights, a gust of wind stirred, soft but strong, carrying that truth into the vastness of the sky. Because sometimes it's not the easy life that teaches us how to soar. It's the one that dares us to rise again, even when the storm clouds gather. The days after the storm felt strangely gentle, not in the absence of pain, but in the softness that comes when pain has finally been seen, held, and understood. Arin's life didn't become perfect. There were still bills, deadlines, and moments of self-doubt, but there was something deeper now. A grounded kind of freedom. The kind that doesn't shout or chase, but simply breathes. Each morning, Arin would sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching sunlight pour between the city's buildings. The sky, once a symbol of longing, now felt like an old friend. They had learned that wings weren't meant to defy gravity, they were meant to dance with it. It had been 6 months since their father's passing. The blog had grown, slowly and steadily, into a small community. But this time, Arin wasn't writing to prove anything. They wrote to connect, to serve. One day, an email arrived from a teacher in a rural town. "Your writing has inspired my students. They've started a creative club, and they'd love for you to visit if you ever can." Arin smiled. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt right. A few weeks later, they found themselves standing before a classroom of bright-eyed teenagers, their notebooks open, curiosity radiating from them. "So," one of the students asked shyly, "what made you start writing about life like this?" Arin paused, looking around the room. "Because I forgot how to live it," they said. "And writing helped me remember." The students leaned forward. "Remember what?" "That the things we call flaws, fears, or failures are often just lessons in disguise," Arin said. "That the easy life might feel safe, but it keeps you from growing. And that sometimes it's the hardest journeys that teach you how to fly." The room was silent for a moment, then filled with soft nods and thoughtful expressions. When the class ended, a quiet girl stayed behind. She approached Arin hesitantly and said, "I almost quit school this year. I thought I wasn't good enough. But your story, it made me think maybe I still have wings." Arin smiled, eyes glistening. "You do," they said. "You just have to remember how to use them." On the train ride home, Arin gazed out at the passing fields, feeling an old memory stir, one of being trapped in routines, chasing comfort. But now, comfort had a new meaning. It wasn't about avoiding discomfort. It was about finding peace in the midst of it. They opened their journal and wrote, "I used to think freedom meant leaving everything behind. Now I know it means carrying it differently." Over the next year, Arin began speaking at small events, community centers, schools, local gatherings. They didn't call themselves a motivational speaker. They simply shared stories about being human, about fear, failure, and rediscovering courage. People listened because it wasn't polished or perfect. It was real. After one talk, an older man approached and said, "I wish someone had told me this when I was your age. I spent 40 years chasing safety and wondering why I felt empty." Arin smiled softly. "It's never too late to fly," they said. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Maybe I'll try before it's too late." One evening, after returning from a long trip, Arin visited Liar's Cafe. It looked just as it did years ago, the same wooden chairs, the same smell of coffee and cinnamon. Liar greeted them with a grin. "The sky called you back again, didn't it?" Arin laughed. Maybe it never stopped calling. They sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. Liar studied them for a while before saying, "You look lighter." "I think I finally understand what you meant," Arin said. "About wings, remembering how to fly." Liar nodded. "And what did you find up there?" "Not perfection," Arin said, smiling. "Just truth. The kind that doesn't promise happiness, but offers peace." Liar raised his cup. "To peace, then, and to those who learn it the hard way." They clinked mugs, and for a moment the world felt still. That night, as Arin walked home beneath the stars, a soft wind brushed their face. It carried the scent of rain and memory, of everything they had lost and everything they had gained. They stopped for a moment, looking up at the vast sky. The same one that had once seemed unreachable now stretched like an open hand. It struck them then, maybe the point was never about escaping the ground. Maybe it was about learning to love it too. Freedom wasn't the opposite of roots. It was the dance between them. Arin whispered to the wind, "The price of an easy life was my wings. The reward of a hard one is knowing how to use them." And somewhere in that quiet space between earth and sky, they finally felt whole. Weeks later, Arin released their first book, The Wings That Forgot to Fly. It wasn't just their story, it was everyone's. The child told to dream smaller, the adult stuck in routines, the soul afraid to fail. The book spread quietly, passed from hand to hand, heart to heart. Not a bestseller, but a soul seller, as Liar would later call it. People began sharing their own wings stories online, using the hashtag Remember to Fly. It became a movement, a digital reminder that even in a world that loves shortcuts, some journeys are meant to take the long way home. On the night of the book's release, Arin stood on a rooftop again, the city glowing beneath them. They took a deep breath, feeling the wind play across their skin. For the first time, they didn't need to prove anything, not to their parents, not to the world, not even to themselves. They were already enough. And in that quiet, infinite moment, they whispered one last truth to the night sky. Wings aren't lost. They're just waiting for courage. Years passed. Not swiftly, but gently, like pages turning in a book read with care. Arin's life had changed in ways they could never have planned. The book, The Wings That Forgot to Fly, had quietly rippled through circles of readers around the world. It wasn't viral fame, it was something better, enduring impact. Letters arrived from teachers, parents, students, and wanderers, all telling their stories of rediscovery. One letter, written in careful, looping handwriting, began, "I'm 63 years old, and I finally started painting again after reading your book. I thought I was too old for dreams. Thank you for reminding me that it's never too late to fly." Arin kept that letter on their desk, tucked beneath a smooth river stone from the mountains where their journey began. Every so often, they'd touch the stone, a small ritual of grounding, and remember how it all started. The walls of comfort, the restless longing, the leap into the unknown. They were no longer searching for freedom. They were living it. But freedom, they had learned, wasn't always grand or wild. Sometimes it looked like saying no to things that didn't align. Sometimes it sounded like silence, the kind that comes after a deep breath. And sometimes it felt like staying still and letting life move through you. One crisp autumn morning, Arin received an invitation to speak at a global leadership summit. It was an event filled with CEOs, innovators, and creators, the kind of place where ambition often outshouted authenticity. Arin hesitated. A few years ago, they might have seen it as a dream opportunity. Now they wondered if it was truly theirs to take. Liar, as always, offered perspective when they stopped by the cafe. "Go," he said simply, "but don't go to impress them. Go to remind them what matters." Arin smiled. "And what matters?" He chuckled. "That wings aren't for show." The day of the summit arrived. The auditorium was vast, filled with bright lights and sharper suits. When Arin stepped onto the stage, the crowd quieted. They began not with a polished speech, but a question. "Have you ever achieved everything you thought you wanted, only to feel emptier than before?" A few heads nodded. Others shifted uneasily. Arin continued, voice calm but sure. I once believed the goal of life was ease. No fear, no failure, no friction. But I learned something different. The easy life isn't free. It costs your wings. The audience leaned in. The truth is, Arin said, growth hurts. Change tests. Freedom requires loss. But those are the very things that teach you how to soar. Comfort is a beautiful cage, but a cage nonetheless. They paused, letting the words settle. I don't stand here because I found success. I stand here because I stopped running from struggle. Because I learned that even storms serve a purpose. They remind you of your strength. Silence filled the hall, deep, resonant, real. Then came the applause. It wasn't thunderous, but it was genuine. The kind that rises from hearts, not hands. Later, one of the organizers approached and said softly, "That didn't sound like a speech. It sounded like truth." Arin smiled. That's all it ever was. When they returned home that evening, the city lights shimmered like reflections of the stars above. Arin stood on their balcony, breathing in the night air. It felt different now, not like escape, but like belonging. They thought about their father, about their mother, about the younger version of themselves who once feared the unknown so deeply. If they could speak to that younger self now, they'd say, "You were never broken. You were just afraid of your own potential." The following spring, Arin returned to the mountains, the same ridge where they had first met Lyre years ago. This time they climbed alone, their steps steady and sure. The air was thinner, the wind colder, but Arin felt stronger. When they reached the summit, they sat for a long while, watching the clouds drift like thoughts across a boundless mind. Below, the world stretched endlessly. Valleys, rivers, towns, all alive, all fleeting. Arin whispered, "I made it back." A small laugh escaped them, half joy, half awe. But maybe I never left. They opened their journal and wrote their final note to themselves. The sky was never the goal. The goal was remembering I belonged there all along. As they descended, they passed a young traveler struggling up the path. She looked exhausted, backpack heavy, breath uneven. "Almost there," Arin said kindly. The girl looked up, eyes wide. "Is it worth it?" she asked. Arin smiled, the kind of smile that carries both memory and meaning. "Yes," they said, "but not because of what's at the top. Because of who you'll become on the way there." The girl nodded slowly, taking in the words. And as Arin walked away, they heard her whisper to herself, "I'll keep going." That night, as the stars emerged one by one, Arin watched the sky fade from amber to indigo. They thought of every lesson learned, from fear, from loss, from flight. Freedom, they realized, had never been about distance. It was about presence, about daring to be awake in your own life. The wings that forgot to fly had finally remembered, not by escaping gravity, but by embracing it. And so, beneath the vastness of the universe, Arin whispered one last truth. A truth they hoped would echo long after their story was done. The price of an easy life is the death of your spirit. The reward of a hard one is the sky. And somewhere far above, unseen but deeply felt, the wind carried their words into eternity. A whisper, a promise, a call. Not for more ease, but for more life. Because those who dare to struggle, to rise, to fall, and rise again, they are the ones who truly learn how to fly. True freedom doesn't come from avoiding struggle. It's born through it. The comfort we cling to may protect us, but it also keeps us grounded, unable to rise. Only by facing challenge, discomfort, and uncertainty do we rediscover our strength, our purpose, and the wings we were always meant to use.